Seen like another recent video where the cops they basically tased a guy in his front door. And it was about something like somebody called because his kid was riding a motorized bicycle, and like the video is disgusting. And the reality is the cops are used to getting away with stuff because the attorneys, the state's attorneys, and the court system and the judges, they don't want to really deal with things once they get in the court because they just put it as business as usual. Like they don't look at things in a different perspective. And I'm sure there are millions of complaints about police that are never addressed and people don't follow up on. And it's just infuriating to see this video, like the last one. And like if a cop is in your house and you know for a fact that you are in the right and they're in the wrong, you have to look at them as an intruder. And if you're going to lose your freedom and get beat up and get put in jail and your family life's going to take a hit and you're going to lose your job and you're going to lose your house and everything you worked for based on someone else's principle being more accepted than yours, then you have to take that chance and live life with a principle yourself and say this is not right and it has to stop. Because if we don't prove examples, then they're not gonna get the message, and there will be no such thing as police reform. I mean, it's just like what you do today affects you and everybody else tomorrow in a lot of circumstances, and also what you don't do today affects your own life, and it makes it hard for the rest of America to continue to live and prosper and have change, because while so many other issues are going on like the financial structure, taxes, you know, code enforcement is part of like policing, and all these things are oppressing families and they're killing people. And like in that circumstance, like technically I think the father should have just backed up and just sat in his house with his gun. And if they wanted to come in that house, I'm sorry, but he should have started shooting. Because just because someone has a badge doesn't mean that they aren't capable of stepping over the line. And the old school people have grown up, and they're still teaching some kids that just because there's a police officer there that you got to shut the fuck up and do what they do whatever they tell you. And I can tell you for a fact, I know personal records of some policemen in Fort Lauderdale and Dania Beach, and they got no teeth because they were smoking meth before. Okay, so now they have a badge and a gun. And you're going to have to accept this. And if your life is going to get destroyed day after day and year after year because of one incident that you failed to protect yourself, think about how your life's going to change. And that cop's just going to go on with his daily business, and he's going to do it to someone else. Or she. And you really got to take this into consideration. So stop looking at the badge and stop looking at their faces at a certain point, because if they are violating you and you are confident that you didn't do nothing wrong, or a reason for them to come into your life and hurt you, okay, because it does hurt to go to jail. It does hurt to have to take off and be stressed and go to court, one time, two times, 10 times, 100 times, with the threat of you going to jail. And, cops do retaliate, okay? But we're going to have to teach them that, like, okay, I had a police officer. He was, like, scanning my RV, and he's parking on all sides. So I didn't call 911. I called the police station. Okay, and then, he drove off, and he came back with another officer, and he was angry and aggressive, and he even tried to open the door to my Winnebago and come in and make it as the context, like, oh, well, I just like Winnebagos. Can I see? And it's like, that wasn't right, because like a police officer's job is different than your 9 to 5 job, and they're not allowed to treat it as the same. Like a police officer can't say, okay, I'm off of work, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to just stay in my uniform and use the cruiser and go hang out at a bar, or go out to eat. They have to change back into sovereigns and Americans, you know, and take that citizen style administrative enforcement uniform off. I mean, it's ridiculous. And just to see, like, the guy manhandled the kid. He tried taking his phone, and he says, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't." And it's all on video. And this guy is probably like a family man. He's groomed. He probably thinks he's cool. He's got like his beard and his mustache, you know, and all his equipment and stuff. And he was probably in his 50s, okay, and he's like manhandling a 15-year-old while his buddies are tasing and beating down the dude's father, you know, because there was an incident. And I just seen this video, and I could not watch the videos, yeah, but I wouldn't be educating myself. And I try to avoid those videos and stuff, but once in a while you're like, what the hell, man? I gotta just see this. And then it's the police's body cam video, and then they're like in the face, and it's like, dude, if this guy wasn't wearing a uniform, nobody would accept that. Okay, you know, going into people's houses without a warrant, without permission, with aggression and beating people down. That has to stop. And the state's attorneys, you know, they need to work on defending themselves instead of prosecuting you. And the only way to do that is to defend yourself, okay, and write paperwork and report incidents. You know, I'm a nonviolent dude. I will not commit an act of violence. I could have had blood on my hands many times from incidents, not including cops, of people attacking me and threatening me and holding weapons to me. And you know what? My gut feeling was that, okay, I'm going to get through this and I'm going to survive. Okay, but if there's a situation where I feel like, okay, my life's really in danger, I will have blood on my hands. Okay, and in the context of rules, if they're guidelines, you know, which are a lot of biased and unfair and unconstitutional, like if they apply for them, why can't your constitutional and civil rights and human rights apply to you? You know, in your house, if a cop comes in your house for no reason, he's not a cop or she's not a cop. They are intruders, okay? And if you didn't do anything wrong and you don't have like something going on that threatens people in the neighborhood or destruction or the safety of others around you, the immediate safety of others around you, then you need to defend yourself and worry about the situation later. And you know what? If more cops show up and start unloading, then you are an example. So you're going to have to defend yourself more. And you got to get on 911. If a cop is getting out of hand, you have the right to call 911. I called 911 and they hung up on me, and I pressed redial and I got the beating recorded. So then I found out that the 911 call center was inside the Fort Lauderdale police station. So I started writing, you know, claims and accountability perspectives, and then they moved the 911 call center out of the police station on a different property, I believe. You know, and then like years later, it was on the news that the 911 operator, you know, she got fired because she hung up on somebody else. And I believe it was the same one. But like, don't let these people's lives supersede your life when you are in the right. And that's what's going to make America great again. Because for me, I'm leaving Florida because it's a police state. It's terrible here. You know, I have an injury. I'm in here for a short amount of time, okay? And post-dated, predated, you know, these videos, it doesn't really matter, okay? Because the issues travel with us through your whole life. So, you know, like that one video, I don't know the name of the video. I think it was like 15-year-old knows his rights and he got 2 cops fired. But you watch the video, I think the whole squad should have been fired. I mean, the whole police station should be under investigation. I mean, it's just crazy. So you gotta have to like look at the perspective, because is it worth dying for to support somebody else's principle based on a dream fantasy idea that you're wrong if there's an involvement with a cop and they are right? They're human too, and there's going to have to be a time where, you know, if you need to defend yourself, you're going to have to dismiss that. And honestly, for what happened and all that trauma, I know that the kid and the kid and his father and the family, for their whole life now, they're going to have that acidic gland juice in their brain, like and myself and everybody else that I know has, with these incidents of being mistreated by corrupt policemen. And the right policemen will advise their buddies, "Hey man, don't go in that house," instead of just shutting up because they're afraid of their co-officers who are aggressive. I don't know what the deal is, but in that circumstance right there, it showed like three cops pulling the guy out of his own house, and it's like it was just ridiculous. You gotta really stick up for yourself, and you gotta learn to write, and you gotta learn to record, and you gotta learn to speak to cops and people as if you have uh, a worthwhile value as an American, and that they are there to serve you. And like, and if you call the cops and they turn on you, you got to report that stuff too. I do, and it's like, it sucks. It sucks that it has to be like this, but you know what? In the long run, it's going to make somebody else's life easier. And it's going to support America, and it's going to allow families and children to grow up in a better world. And the fear that, you know, the world is going to be all bad because cops aren't going to protect us, the cops are hurting people right now. So really, this all has to be taken into consideration with a grain of salt. And you got to realize that to defend yourself, that's God's will. And for you to bow down to another man, that's not what God wants. So, in this perspective, you have to consider how valuable your life is in that sense, because when you're in jail, you're going to think about God, okay? When your family's dead, you're going to think about God, okay? When you can't do nothing and you're overpowered and they screwed you and you have to just bite the bullet or accept it and fuck you. You're going to think about God. So you need to have that power during these situations instead of, as a pampering bandage later on. You know, myself, honestly, the case was thrown out against me. And they did so many bad things. It wasn't a violent situation at that point because there was a lot of gray areas, but if there's a simple cut and dry situation, I want to stay alive. Don't you?